Ladies and gentlemen, Pence confronted Trump, and it was basically a physical confrontation and a verbal confrontation, and he's the good Republican and Trump is the menace, and it says so on the CNN article, so it must be true, and it's in a book, so it must be true, and if it's in a dossier or James Comey's notes and memos memorializing a conversation, of course he would never lie. Comey is a very good person. It's 100% true, and if it's an Atlantic article that is just the most horrendous display or example of journalism or gossip masquerading as journalism, where Trump is accused of having disparaged fallen Americans without a shred of evidence, where are the articles like this written about Democrats? Where are the dossiers? Where are the books? And we had books with Bill Clinton. Oh, my goodness. Oh, there's so Clinton cash full of lies. You don't see CNN reading Clinton cash, but they are, oh my God, obsessed over every page of books that come out against Trump. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, by the way. We're almost at 183,000 subs. And I'm going to give you a unique viewpoint. And I'm going to give you kind of the way I think people should take or process this endless amount of gossip and hearsay and innuendo and conjecture and every sort of thing that's the antithesis of actual journalism. Okay? This is not journalism. This is like, this is one step perhaps above the National Enquirer. So when you see like space aliens had baby with, so-and-so actress or actor, that's the same type of thing. The issue with Pence is that Pence today, he was in Iowa. I did a live stream on this. Pence in Iowa charges, he's trying to differentiate himself with Trump and become a front runner in 2024. He thinks he can actually surpass President Trump. He's going to try his best. And this will not happen. There are news articles now that he's, he almost physically confronted the president at one point. This is all nonsense. And it's done this is a vapid public relations stunt by Republicans and Democrats, but by Democrats who want to fabricate this notion that they're just fine with good Republicans. Let's say Pence was able to overcome or surpass President Trump in 2024. If Trump decides to run, which I think he will, he easily becomes nominee without even, it would be instantaneous, virtually. But let's say he was able to surpass President Trump. He would be vilified to the point where Democrats would say, Trump was better. They're not interested in actually getting a more competitive candidate. They think that Trump is the most menacing, horrible person who's ever existed. So that should also equate to him being such a flawed candidate that Biden would go 8 years, or if there weren't 2 terms as a limit, Democrats would never be able to. You would think that Democrats wouldn't be frightened of Trump because after 2 terms of Biden, they would then have 2 terms of another Democrat, because if Trump runs every year for the next 4 years, they have nothing to worry about because he's so polarizing and repulsive and, insulting that nobody would want to vote for him. The opposite is true. They're frightened of Trump. They're petrified of him. They are indignant and perpetually indignant and in disbelief that half the country would view them to be greater liars than they view Trump to be. This is why they're so obsessed and focused on trying to control information or messaging or data or any type of debate or discourse or discussion. That's why they equate everything to the most harmful outcomes if you deviate or disagree with them. And they ignore, I mean, you could look at what's taking place. They ignored 3 to 4 months of endless damage to property, businesses, lives lost, according to Wikipedia. And they focus on a horrific event where 4 lives were lost, but three of the 4, I believe it's 4, 3 of the 4 were supporters of President Trump. 1 woman should be alive today. The hypocrisy on the left is astounding. Unarmed, but you look at their laser focus on that tragic day. It's almost as if 3 to 4 months prior, there weren't, about 5 months prior to that, there weren't endless curfews in every major city of the country. You cannot separate the two events. Yes, they're different. And Democrats say, well, wait, we didn't foment anything. Oh, yes, you did. If you want to say Trump's rhetoric caused a tragedy, then there are a number of examples from Democratic lawmakers who have made the same types of statements. But you look, they should have leveled charges if they really believe that Trump is guilty of breaking the law. Then they should have leveled charges in Washington, D.C. The mayor of D.C. and the attorney general of D.C. should have leveled charges at Trump. They didn't. Why didn't they? If the Mueller probe had enough evidence to investigate Trump for working alongside Russian intelligence officials, why didn't they indict Trump for doing so? If his returns showed that he was this criminal Al Capone type of individual where, you had to look at this labyrinth, this financial labyrinth of deceit, then why did they indict Alan Weisselberg? It's always, they're building a case against Trump. Michael Cohen, they went after Carter Page, they went after George Papadopoulos. Before Michael Cohen sold his soul, he was telling the world, hey, I never was in Prague. I was never working alongside Russian intelligence officials because they tried to justify a completely fabricated document purchased by Trump's direct political rivals, the Steele dossier. And so he was never, it wasn't just Michael Cohen. He actually committed crimes on his own. But it was a whole bunch of people, George Papadopoulos, Manafort, who committed crimes but that had nothing to do with Trump-Russia. It was a public relations stunt to go after people around Trump because they just can't stand him. They despise him. It has nothing to do with the rule of law because they don't treat Democrats in that manner. You think they tried to investigate everyone around Madam Secretary to get them to flip and sing? No. The opposite happened. And so it's not about the rule of law. It's about just spewing as much contempt and disdain for Trump as possible and conveying this this exponentially indignant reaction, or this indignation that is exponentially increased all the time by the reality that half the country doesn't trust the Democratic Party and doesn't care what the Democratic Party or morally superior, oftentimes apoplectic liberals think of Trump. They don't care about your disdain for Trump. Neither do I. I liked President Trump because of his policies. I want Americans home from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. And if Biden continues with Trump's negotiated deal, that would be a very good thing. Give me your thoughts below. Pence thinks that he can surpass President Trump. That would never happen in a million years. Thank you.